Do I have your attention? 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 Do I have your attention?
Is you taking notes?
Hey, what's up, you guys? It's your boy SimplyFoodByTy, and today I'm going to be showing you all how to make pulled pork in a slow cooker. But before we jump too far into what we're going to season it with our rub and all of that, I posted on my community post if you guys wanted to see the way I trim off the fat and, get this thing properly cleaned. And you guys voted yes, so here we are. So, look, when you get a pork shoulder, typically it's going to be around 5.5 to 6 pounds, or at least most grocery stores that I've been to, that's about the size that you'll get, and that's pretty much what I have here. But you're always going to notice that on the back of it, there's going to be a very, very thick layer of fat. Now, unless you have a fantastic butcher and they absolutely adore you, it is rare that you're ever going to get a pork shoulder where it's going to be completely cleaned. Now, the reason why it is important to trim off a good amount of all of this excess fat, because you're going to be cooking this, you guys, for about 10.5 hours. By the time this finishes, the last thing you're going to want to have to deal with is worrying about trying to get rid of all of the fat that you don't want to be chewing on. As you can see here, that's pretty thick, you guys. That you don't want to be chewing down on that. And when it comes down time to shredding, you don't want to have to be worrying about trying to separate the fat from the meat, and you just don't want to have to do it. And one of the best things about cooking with a pork shoulder is that naturally, as you can see, the meat has this beautiful marbleization. I don't even know if that's a damn word, honey, but I've just said it. It is literally filled with fat. I mean, you can see all of the beautiful layers of fat that's mixed within the meat itself. So all of this that you're trimming off, trust me, you're not losing any flavor whatsoever. Now, if you want to keep it on, that's completely up to you, but I would highly advise against it. Now, like I said, here on the back side, I'm just going to be trimming off as much as I possibly can. Also, you guys, make sure you have a really, really sharp knife. Like, this knife probably could have standed to be a bit sharper. But the sharper the knife, the easier this will be, and it'll also be a lot safer. Now, you don't have to go as far as trying to make sure that you get off every stitch of white, because that's not really necessary. But what you do want to do is make sure, however, that any of the areas where it's really, really thick, like if you're not able to feel the meat of the pork shoulder under the layer of fat that you're touching, that means it's way too thick and you want to trim that down. So up on that top half there, that actually looks good. See down at this bottom area where I'm about to work now, that's still way too thick. And at the end of the day, you really don't want to be chomping down on that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn on some music. I'm going to let you guys continue to watch this process so that, when it comes down time for you guys to prepare your pork shoulder, you will know exactly what to do. Sit back and enjoy. Alrighty guys, so as you can see now, we are coming up on the last stages for this backside, and honestly at this stage, this is about what you want to see. You want to see enough of the meat under the pork shoulder itself. That little bit of fat there is completely fine. So what you're going to do now is you're just going to be flipping it over, and you're going to do the exact same thing. Now what you see me here cutting on the side is actually a layer that's going to open up actually pretty wide, and there is a lot of tendons or I don't know why I call it tendons, but there's a lot of fat and membrane and all of that in there that you really want to make sure that you are getting out. See, like all of that there is not the business. You do not want to be eating on that. Now you want to be careful that you're not cutting all the way through, but definitely make sure that you open it up enough to get all of that excess fat and membrane out, because that you do not want to be chewing on that. Trust me, you. And plus, the more meat that is exposed on the inside of this like crevice here, the more seasoning you can put in, and then it'll just be absolutely fabulous. But just like how we treated the backside, you guys, you don't have to make it completely perfect. That's not what you're going for here. You're just trying to get rid of the excessive amount of the fat in the membrane. And as you can see, that looks pretty. So now all you're going to do now is just trim off this little bit here on the front, and now, you know, your pork shoulder is perfectly beautiful. Let's talk about that dry rub. So we're going to do 1 tablespoon of black pepper, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, a tablespoon of garlic powder. We're going to use 1 tablespoon of smoked paprika, and I'm going to be using the brown sugar bourbon grill mates. We're going to be using 2 tablespoons of that and 1.5 tablespoons of kosher salt. And that is our dry rub. Now, typically, if I wasn't using that brown sugar bourbon, I would have also added in some brown sugar, but we don't really have to do that here. And if you like a little bit of kick to yours, you can add in also a tablespoon of cayenne pepper. So now what we're going to do is, now that our pork shoulder is nice and dried off, we're just going to go ahead and put this rub on. And you want to make sure that you're using all of it. Like I said, this was roughly about a 5.5, 6 pound pork shoulder here. And you want to make sure that every single nook and cranny is covered in that dry rub. I used all of the dry rub from that ingredients that I was just telling you about. So if you use that and follow the measurements exact, you'll have more than enough. And like I said, you just really want to make sure that you're getting that dry rub all over all of those parts. And the best thing about this is, you guys, because this is going to be cooking for about, like I said, 10.5 hours on a very low temperature in your crock pot, the way the seasonings are going to seep down into the meat ever so slowly, but then you're going to have all of the juices from the fat. It's going to create a beautiful, beautiful like stock that's going to come in handy later on as well. So you really want to make sure that you are really, really rubbing this down. And one of the best ways to make sure that the seasoning sticks to it and it doesn't just go, you know, falling off and, you know, just making a mess, is to make sure that you kind of pat dry your pot roast. If it's really wet, then all the seasoning is going to clump up and then it's not going to lay down properly. And trust me, you, this is one of those things where you're going to be able to put it in your crock pot and walk away, and 10 hours later, you know, you're going to have this fabulous meal. But you definitely don't want to be going through all of this, you know, and not taking the proper time to clean it properly, and also not take the proper time to rub it down, honey. And if you really want to let those seasonings soak in, you can wrap it with some cling wrap and let it sit and marinate for about 2 to 3 hours, but it's not necessary in my opinion. So now, like I said, we're going to pop this in our crock pot, you guys. That's it. You know, I would say do this at about, you know, 6 o'clock in the morning before you go to work. What we're adding in right now, you guys, is 1 cup of water with 2 tablespoons of better than bouillon chicken base. That's why it's so bright yellow. You're going to put the top on this, you guys. Put a sign, as you can see right here, that says, "Do not open me." You're going to put that on low, you guys, for 10.5 hours. Do not open the top. 10.5 hours, and when you go and put it on your tray, it is going to fall apart. Literally, look how that bone just, I mean, it just slid right out. Clean. Completely clean. And then honestly, the forks, like, I'm barely putting any pressure on this, you guys. And I mean, it's just shredding down beautifully. Now, I will tell you guys, it is a crap ton of meat. It is a lot of pulled pork here. Now, typically, because like for me, there's only 2 other people with me. So what I like to do is I actually break mine down. And then I freeze some of mine. Let's talk about our barbecue sauce. So I'm going to be using Sweet Baby Ray's as one of my sauces. I'm also going to be using Red Hot's Stingin' Honey Garlic. And then I'm also going to be using some apple cider vinegar. This is just the brand that I always use, which is the Bragg's. So what you're going to also need is a little squeeze bottle. You don't necessarily have to have that, honey. I'm just saying, but that's what I use. So I'm adding in what looks to be about 1 tablespoon. First of all, y'all, what I'm going to do is I'm not even about to sit here and act like I know what that cup was. So I'm going to put them all on the screen so that y'all could see exactly what these are. I can tell you that that was 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. But for those other 2 sauces, I'll put it on the screen for you, what the measurements were. And then you're just going to give this a whisk. Now, the reason why I like to use Sweet Baby Ray's, the Stingin' and that apple cider vinegar, the vinegar just brightens up that barbecue sauce beautifully. Now, what you see me doing right now is I'm pouring in pretty much all of that stock that was left over in the crock pot. Do not throw that away, okay? Because what's happening right now is a majority of that liquid is being completely soaked up by all of that pulled pork. And you're going to have a decent amount left. What I like to do is actually I put all of this in the fridge, and then the next day, once the liquid is kind of solidified, that's when I like to put it in the freezer because it makes it easier and you don't make a mess. So what I'm doing right now, you guys, is I'm just building a sandwich for you guys. Got our pulled pork. I'm going to be using a brioche bun. I'm putting on my lovely barbecue sauce that I like to use. It has a little bit of a tang to it, but you can use whatever type of barbecue sauce you would like. That's completely fine. Use whatever your favorite type of coleslaw is. If you guys want me to do a homemade coleslaw video, thumbs this video up. Put that brioche bun on the top, and just for you guys, I'm going to put a pickle, but y'all know I do not eat pickles. Look, if you are new to my channel, welcome to Simply Food by TY, and if you're one of my returning subscribers, y'all babies know I love y'all so much, and as always, y'all stay cute, and take care. Bye.
Simply Food by TY.